Well, I think we can all agree that the relationship with your family is one of the most complex ones out there. I'm sure you've heard this phrase that goes something like, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a weekend with your family. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Oh my god, there's so much I want to talk about on this episode. I talked about this very briefly on my stories today. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you can have the link here. And then I was like, I'm actually going to do a podcast about this because we need to talk more about this. We need to give it more visibility. We need to keep it more real when it comes to these conversations because it's honestly hard. It's fucking hard work. And on my stories, I was talking about how we don't talk enough about the process of relating with your family. Once you start working on yourself, once you start up leveling your standards, once you start reaching higher levels of self-respect, which comes with not tolerating certain behaviors, not tolerating certain conversations, not tolerating certain comments, not tolerating a lot of dynamics that your family has normalized and your family just sees as normal, has been doing for so long that they don't even question if it's something that's actually healthy for the relationship or for you in general. And this is definitely something that everyone in the spiritual / self-development world experiences. And quite frankly, I just want to be very honest in this podcast. Like, I want to be very transparent. I want to be very authentic. I want to be as respectful as I can for my family as well, but also just respect how I'm feeling and own my truths because this is what this podcast is about. So, first thing I want to say is that I love my family so much. I really, really do. And I know they love me so much as well. However, I'm a firm believer that relationships cannot thrive just off of love alone. Any sort of relationship, romantic, friendship. I truly believe that just because we love each other doesn't mean that the relationship is going to be healthy or it's a relationship that you need to settle for. And this also applies to our relationship with our family. Relationships require so much more than just love to thrive and to be healthy and to be sustainable. You can love someone so much and still the other person doesn't necessarily feel loved. And this is why these conversations need to happen within our family dynamics because we're all different. We all need certain things. We all crave certain things. We all expect certain things that maybe we were not taught how to give. We were not taught how to communicate. We were not taught that we can actually want those things from our family members. The relationship that we see from our parents completely affects how we end up relating in the future. And this is not just about women, like this happens if you're a guy as well. How you see your father treating your mom is gonna have a bigger impact than what your father ever told you that being a man was, as well for women. What you saw your mom tolerating from your father is gonna speak louder, is gonna have a much bigger impact on you than all these TED Talks that your mom ever gave you about like respect yourself, don't tolerate shitty behaviors, stay away from toxic men, blah 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 blah. What you saw your mom tolerating set an example of what is okay for you to tolerate as well from the world, from men in relationships. And how you saw your father treat your mom has also told your subconscious mind that's normal, that's what you should strive for, that is safety, that is familiar. And so later on you grow up and you realize, fuck, I've been repeating the same fucking patterns that I saw in my parents. And maybe it's not as obvious at first, but reflecting upon this with myself in my own life, I've come to the realization that like the way I saw the females in my family interact with the males in the family impacted me so much more than what quality of males are in my family. I'm a woman, and so as a young little girl, you are unconsciously looking and absorbing everything that the females do in your family and how they relate to the males. They are setting up an example of what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to tolerate, how you're supposed to behave. When we're growing up, our parents literally are our role models. They're our heroes. We're looking up to them to show us how the world is, how to interact with it, how to build relationships, how to communicate, how to behave. How you saw your father behave with your mom raised an example of the kind of men that you find safety in your future. And also, at least in my own personal experience, fuck, this is very personal. I'm just becoming very aware of how when I was very little, I was trying to get my father's attention and my father's validation. And still to this day, I rarely ever get to have his approval, him being proud of me. It's always kind of been like, I need to earn that approval and I need to earn that love. And so how that looked like was that I would push myself to my limits emotionally because I knew that once I reached that limit, he was actually going to show up. But that limit was not my actual limit. It was overstepping my own limits, overstepping my own boundaries. My limit came before that, way before that, but because it was not good enough for him, I was like, okay, I need to keep going, go, and then you will find the validation here, you will earn the love here. And so later on in life, I have seen how that deeply impacted my way of relating with men and seeing why I was so attracted to emotionally unavailable men, to guys who were not ready for a relationship, to guys who made me feel like I needed to earn their love and I needed to earn their time and I needed to earn them choosing me. What I'm trying to say is that how we used to find our father's love starts becoming a way of behaving and a way of finding that love that becomes so natural for you and becomes so ingrained in your subconscious mind that you later on start doing that with other guys in your life. And you start repeating the same fucking pattern because it's how you knew you could find that love, that safety, that validation, that presence from your father. So I've just been going very deep with myself in all of these things recently. And I've come to the realization that being fully honest with myself, I didn't feel safe with any of the men that were in my family or are in my family. I grew up feeling so unsafe emotionally because they were either sexualizing me or sexualizing the women in the family. I'm a very sensitive person. So imagine when I was a kid, I was very, very sensitive. And so seeing angry men, seeing men raising their voices, seeing men speaking so shit about women, just saying the most gnarly shit, and just like seeing men who had absolute no capacity for self-regulation and they would just explode out of the smallest of things was so traumatizing for me. Yeah, so I've just been realizing this like a few days ago. I actually felt very, very overwhelmed and very unsafe with all the men in my family when I was very young. Not physically unsafe, but emotionally. I think as a woman as well, it just gets to a point where certain behaviors from men become so normalized that you just learn how to mold yourself so that they don't really bother you that much. Seeing how in Christmas, all the women would do so much work. They would cook for like 30 people, clean everything, get all the gifts, make sure everything was happening in absolute time. The house looked beautiful, make sure everyone is happy, make sure everyone has a bedroom, making sure that everyone is comfortable, making sure that everyone is happy, making sure that everyone has what they need. Women doing absolutely everything, and the males just sitting on the fucking couch watching football. And not just watching football, but making jokes about women. And the women just being okay with that, which I understand, it's other times, whatever. But I grew up seeing this. Also, another situation when we were in summer, and still to this day, this still happens. Being at the beach house and being very young, my mom or my aunts telling me to not wear specific swimwear because a specific family member is gonna be looking or because it might bother them. It's like, bro, like, that's none of my fucking business. That's not my issue. If you cannot trust your husband, you should not be talking to me. You should not be having this conversation with me. You should be having this conversation with that fucking person. Like, that's actually disgusting. But it was, and still to this day, very normal. Very normalized. Just certain comments that if you actually think about them, you're just like, that's disgusting that you have this feeling of saying that to a 20-year-old instead of talking to the fucking grown-up man that's in front of you that you've married and you don't trust. Are we crazy? Are we okay? And just a lot of other behaviors that out of the privacy of my family I'm not going to talk about, but I wanted to give these two little simple examples just because this thing can seem so harmless and just like they don't really have much of an impact, but what you're telling your kid, what you're telling the little girl is the comfort of men is more important than your own safety. It's more important than your own needs. It's more important than your own priorities. It's more important than your own limits. Like, you're teaching women to be scared of men, and not just scared of men, but to be scared of standing up for themselves, because they're scared that the peace will break and they're scared that the relationship will stop. I'm paying a lot of attention in my life. I've been wanting to be very honest about what behaviors and what dynamics are currently still happening in my life with my family, that being fully honest with myself, I actually don't fuck with that. I actually don't tolerate that. And I would never tolerate anyone telling me certain comments. Why should I accept them from you just because you're my father, just because you're my grandma, just because you're my mom? Like, it does not make any sense. Obviously, it's our family, and I know we all have different relationships with our family, and I understand why a lot of the times we just don't validate that this dynamic as it is actually not healthy for me, and change needs to happen, because a lot of people are scared of change, and also a lot of people don't really know how to move through change. They see it as danger, quite literally. I personally want to keep having a relationship with my family, but I don't want to keep tolerating, and I don't want to keep feeding into certain behaviors, and I just don't want to keep having space for certain things that I would never tolerate from anyone else. I don't want to tolerate them from my family. Why should I have to do that? And this is what I was talking about on my story. Like, we don't talk enough about how hard it is to match the level of respect and standards that you start reaching and you start incorporating as your normal. Once you start working on yourself, once you start clearing out certain traumas, once you start having certain conversations, once you start understanding yourself better, once you start clearing out all these narratives in your mind about like who you're supposed to be in order to be loved and to be validated and to be valued as a person, which all of these come from our childhood. So how do you relate with your family after raising your standards for how you are to be treated and how you're to be respected, when they've never treated you with that level of respect, when they're still operating from such an outdated, old inner space that you just completely cannot relate to and you completely feel unsafe with? How can we still connect with our family then? And this is exactly what I'm working on at the moment. Once again, because I've been doing this work for many, many years now, and I feel like in each phase of my life, the relationship that I've had with my family has been very different, and I have taken a lot of drastic steps as well. I've gotten to the point of blocking certain family members of my life or not speaking to them for many, many years. Like, I don't regret taking those actions. I truly don't think that just because we're family doesn't mean I cannot have boundaries with you. I don't have to tolerate certain comments just because you're my grandma. I don't have to tolerate certain conversations and certain questions that, quite frankly, you already know are just not respectful. And with this podcast episode, I feel like I just wanted to chat, and maybe I can give a few like little tips of how I've been navigating this in my life, but I don't want to come across a teacher. Like, this is not meant to be a coaching video at all. This is meant to be just like a conversation between friends. And I'm also happy to share a few steps that I've been taking throughout my life that have really helped me with this transition. And if it helps, I'm more than happy for that. But we all have different journeys. We all have different relationships with our families. And with this video, I truly just want to encourage you to find that balance for yourself, to have the courage to be your own individual self and not a product of who your family thinks you have to be. A lot of times I like to tell this story, which I'm going to share with you right now as well, because it really impacted me. I remember the first time that I ever left my country and I went abroad and I lived abroad for a year. I was around, I think I was 17, and it was my first time ever traveling alone, fully living without anyone that I've ever known. I was in high school. I was living with a foreign family. I was in Ireland in the middle of fucking nowhere. If you've been an old follower, you know exactly about that part of my life. Everything was absolutely new. I didn't know anyone. I had no idea of who I was gonna live with. I had no idea of who was in that school. I didn't know the language. I didn't know the fucking accent. Like, have you heard Irish people? Their accent is so hard. Everything was absolutely new, which was extremely scary, but at the same time gave me all the space that I needed to discover and to truly see who I was, who I am, without all the fucking noise from your parents, from your school, from your friends, your past experiences, reminding you who you're supposed to be, what kind of path you're meant to still take. So I had full space to just actually be who the fuck I was. And it's not, I never actually knew before that point that I wasn't being who I truly was. I was just going along with what other people were telling me I was. But it was then, when I had none of that fucking chatter around me, that I was actually able to see that I'm actually not a shy person at all. I'm just very selective of who I want to share my energy and my time with. I'm such a natural leader as well. I'm very fucking goofy. I don't give a shit about what anyone thinks about me. I started seeing all these parts about myself that I was not seeing before because I was too busy trying to fulfill what other people were expecting from me. And I feel like this is so common with our families, especially when we start doing work on ourselves. It's like our family feels very far away from us and we feel very far away from them, even if we're still in the same room, because I just don't find certain conversations interesting anymore, or I don't find certain topics interesting anymore while they're still in that space. And it's completely fine. It doesn't make me any better, or it doesn't make them any fucking worse. We're just in different places. And I feel like a lot of times we just get so stuck in trying to be who our parents think we are. And maybe that's also just a projection that we have. Like, I also heard this quote from Jay Shetty once in his podcast, and he was saying something like, I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am, which pretty much means I am going to behave and I'm going to mold myself into the version of Paula that I think you have about me. Such a mindfuck. And I truly think that finding that space to come back to your own energy is so crucial. Being able to connect with who you are beyond who they think you are is extremely important. I'm not gonna lie, a lot of disappointment comes with this. A lot of hard conversations come with this. A lot of you having to own who you are regardless of what they think has to come with this. And this is not an easy fucking job, but it's such a worthy job, especially if you still want to have a relationship with your family. And with this video, I also wanted to tell you, you can validate how you're feeling. Like, you can validate when certain dynamics are actually not working for you. You can validate how that relationship with your family feels like at the moment. Like, truly, like, sit down with yourself, take a deep breath. You are allowed to be fully honest with yourself. And you are allowed to be honest about how that relationship truly feels like for you. And it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean that you hate them. It doesn't mean that you are being selfish. It doesn't mean that you want the worst for them. It just means that you also need to validate how you're feeling, and you are also a priority. And especially if you want to maintain a relationship with your family, if you don't address the problems, you're going to end up building so much resentment towards them that you're just not going to be able to stand them, even if you really want to. There's nothing worse than wishing you could express how much you love to your family, but not feeling like you can because you're so scared and because you just have so much resistance towards it. Because I've been there a lot of times, and I still to this day am to a certain degree. So honestly, allowing yourself to be your own individual is so important. And it sounds very silly and very simple, but think about all the small little ways in which every day you take certain decisions or you don't take certain decisions just because that's how you were taught that you were going to receive the love and the care and the attention that you wanted from your parents. Like, I think a lot of times we just make excuses for our family because we obviously want to keep them in our lives. This video, truly, I'm not trying to say that like it's one extreme or the other. I'm a true believer that we are humans. Our parents are fucking humans as well. This is their first time being parents as well. That does not excuse them from their mistakes or from their shit. But it does put you into perspective and being like, you know what, like, actually, I would be happy to have a conversation with you about how this behavior makes me feel, because it's not something I am available for. It's not something I have any space for. It's not something I'm going to tolerate. And I want you to know because I want to keep our relationship with you. However, you're free to do whatever you want with this information. If you want to have a relationship with me, amazing. But this is where I stand. And this is where I'm going to be met. and it's not up for negotiation. And with this also comes the acceptance that we're only responsible for ourselves. Like there's only so much we can communicate, there's only so much we can hope for, there's only so much that we can want to experience from the other person. It truly does not matter how much you try to communicate and to express and to just be like speaking mindfully and intentionally and in a very gentle way. If the other person doesn't want to understand you, doesn't want to be curious about why that means that for you, if the other person doesn't have the capacity to be honest with themselves, they're not going to be able to change and they're not going to be able to meet you where you need to be met. That's okay. You get to decide what kind of capacity you have for someone that can only meet you where they can meet you. That's as much as you can do. I will say I feel very grateful because I think I can say that my family has always been very open to my own journey and my own processes. With both my parents, I've always had to have a lot of hard conversations, a lot of confronting conversations. Like, fuck my life. With both my parents, they both know that I need to have conversations and I need to communicate, and I'm a very sensitive person as well. We all are in my family. Let's just keep that real. So I am very grateful for that they've always been very available for a conversation. And just in case you didn't know, I have been living abroad pretty much ever since. I'm currently living in Australia, but I always visit my family over summer, European summer. The thing is, going from such a hard contrast is always very hard emotionally. Start blank in a new place and allowing myself to see who the fuck I actually am, and then coming back home and being like, what the heck? Like, you're just a completely different new person, but everyone else around you when you go back home is still the same person. That's when it gets hard. And something that really helps me when I am in the same space as my family for long periods of time is making sure that I have every single day at least like 1 hour in the morning just for myself, making sure that I have small little pockets of time to just be by myself, to connect with myself, connect with how things feel like for me, just connect with my body, connect with my mind, connect with my energy, and with all the information that I've gathered, decide how I want to move forward. But again, I truly believe that each moment of your life is different, and how a healthy relationship looks like for you right now with those members of your family may not be perfect. It may not be ideal, but maybe it's just as healthy as it can be right now for you to stay sane and for them to also stay sane in whatever capacity you both have at the moment. And that's perfect as well. I truly think the most important thing is that both of you are willing to put in the work. And because that's my current experience, I can only speak from there, but I also would say I'm very okay with limiting how much of my time I spend with someone if they just cannot meet me where I need to be met, just because it ends up hurting me. The reason why I even started having this need to change my current dynamic with my family, but more specifically with my father, it's because the reason why I wanted to make this podcast, it's because with all of this work that I've been doing on myself and all these reflections that I've been having on how the relationship that I've had with my parents has deeply affected the relationships that I've been having with guys and the type of behavior that I've been tolerating with guys. But not just that. What's most importantly is how I have been treating myself through the kind of relationship dynamics that I was allowing, through the kind of relationships that I was tolerating. And it's small little ways in which you're showing a little girl to put aside her needs, put aside her truths, put aside her feelings, put aside her safety, because everything that matters is to be chosen and everything that matters is to be wanted by that person. It's a message that all those little behaviors that I was seeing from the females in my family were giving me. And I know that's obviously not what my mom was trying to tell me with her words, and I know that's not what my mom wished for me. She always used to tell me completely the opposite, but what I was seeing was that? This is why this work is so fascinating for me, because it's so wild that still I am 26-year-old and still to this day, without realizing, I am trying to find my father in every fucking guy that I choose. It's like, do you really like him or do you just need your fucking father? Do you really like that guy that much, or are you just trying to get your father's validation through him? You know what I mean? And also, a few months ago, I went through a really awful experience. I went through a really hard experience with a guy, which I'm not going to talk about right now, but I will talk about in another podcast. And I have learned so much from that experience. What are some small little ways in which I do not respect myself and I do not respect my own boundaries just because I'm scared that the other person is going to leave me? And it's been also a huge journey for me to validate how things feel like for me, to validate my truths, to validate my limits, to validate, hey, actually, no, this is fucked and I don't have space for this, and no, I don't want to do this. And to validate it, I don't need the other person to validate it for me. I don't need to explain to you why it is a no. It's just a no. And that's it. And that's enough of a reason to stop. But more specifically, it's enough of a reason for me to respect my no. So this is why this work has been so relevant for me recently, and seeing how all these sneaky little behaviors, comments, ways that I saw my mom or my aunts were relating to the males in the house, all these little shits that look like they're harmless, they were deeply affecting me, conditioning my brain really hard. And they were showing me that it's okay to tolerate a lot of shit from men, that it's just not okay to tolerate, just because they were so scared that their partner was gonna leave them. They were so scared that the family was gonna break, and they were so scared of breaking the peace. And it's just like, and if you owning your fucking boundaries and you standing up for yourself breaks a connection, so be it. I would so much rather break a connection because they cannot fucking meet me where I deserve to be met. I would so much rather not be in any sort of connection with someone that I feel I have to be constantly shaping myself into whoever they want me to be, that I have to be walking on eggshells, that I have to be considering them before me. Fuck that. No. This is why I decided to record this podcast today, because it's honestly really important that we start questioning how we are behaving with the type of people that we're interested in, that we question why we are putting ourselves last, that we're questioning why we're doing certain things, why are we shape-shifting ourselves to be chosen, why are we still operating from this place of I need to earn love and I need to earn the attention of this person. It's like, no, you being you gives you the right to be loved just for being you, and that's it. So yeah, with this podcast episode, I mainly wanted to encourage you to allow yourself to be honest about what dynamic with your family feels good and what doesn't, and that you're allowed to validate what doesn't feel good for you, what doesn't feel healthy, what doesn't feel sustainable. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a selfish person. You are your own fully whole individual. Your existence was not made to make other people comfortable, not even your family. Just know that this journey comes with a lot of uncomfortable conversations, uncomfortable situations, you having to choose yourself even when it doesn't look easy, even when it's not comfortable, even when it's going to demand you to stand strong in your values and stand strong in your opinions and stand strong in your boundaries. Even when someone is not going to respect your boundaries, you have to still respect them. And it also comes with, honestly, a lot of grace and compassion for yourself and love for yourself, and being like, you know what? I fucked up. I made a mistake, and that's okay as well. We need to learn to also meet ourselves in our mistakes. Start becoming curious about your behaviors, about your patterns with guys. Why do you keep repeating the same patterns with guys? Why do you keep attracting the same kind of guys again and again and again, just with different faces? We attract so many different kinds of guys, but why are you choosing those ones that always end up making you feel the exact same way? I want you to validate the kind of relationships that you want to have, even if it's not the kind of relationships that you think you're allowed to want, or your family, maybe you never saw anyone love each other that way. And still, if that's what you want for yourself, you can own it and you can ask for it and you can work for it. Become very curious about how your relationship with your dad has impacted the way that you relate to men, and also what things about the way that your mom related to your father or with men in general. What stories have integrated in your brain about it? What stories are you still telling yourself about it? What things did you see about her way of relating with men that still to this day you are just repeating without noticing? I want you to remember that you can absolutely change these things and start reclaiming yourself, start reclaiming your mind, start reclaiming your relationships, start reclaiming who the fuck you are, regardless of who you've been told to be or regardless who you've always been. One of the ways that this has looked like for many, many years for me has been staying and choosing emotionally unavailable partners. Staying once they had already showed me that they were not really ready to give me what I wanted, to give me what I deserved. Staying and quote unquote fighting for them, even when they had actually told me, I'm not ready for a relationship, I'm not looking for a relationship, I'm not gonna give you a relationship, I would still be like, that's fine, I'm gonna stay anyways, I'm gonna stick around. In my childhood of me never feeling good enough for his validation or his love, I was literally telling my subconscious mind that I need to earn love and I need to fight for it. And don't get me wrong, like I fully agree with fighting for relationships, but only when two people are willing to do that, not when it's just me trying to make something work, not me abandoning myself and abandoning my respect for myself to keep someone that quite frankly I don't even want that much. It's just I don't want to feel rejected by them. It starts becoming more so a game with yourself of like proving yourself that you're lovable and that you can be loved versus you actually wanting that person and to build something with that person because you love them in that way. So this was one of the ways in which, the way that my relationship with my father has manifested through the men later on in my life. Also in staying in situations that were already harming me in any way. Out of respect for my family, I'm not gonna go deep into it, but a big part of me doesn't trust my father emotionally due to some things that happened in the past with him. I kind of forced myself to be okay with those things because I wanted to maintain a relationship with him because I really value him and I want him in my life. And so I just figured I had to just like suck it up and be okay with those things and how I felt. And I just normalized always feeling this tension in my chest when I'm around him instead of actually being like, okay, this is actually not a healthy sign. Let me look into this or let me just like change the dynamic. I just integrated it as like, well, if I want a relationship with my father, this is the cost of it. And now I'm realizing that's not true. It doesn't have to be true. So it's only been recently that I've been like, you know what, like our relationship, it's actually not where I want it to be, and it's not been for a few years, but it's only now that I'm being able to validate it because I've stopped tolerating a lot of shit from guys. And out of integrity for myself, there's no way I'm going to tolerate these things from you just because you're my father. Out of integrity for myself and respect for myself, it's not in me to tolerate this, and I don't make any sort of excuses for anybody. So matching that level of integrity and that level of respect with yourself, with your family, is hard because it involves a lot of confrontational conversations. It comes with you having to put yourself first and standing up for yourself even when it's uncomfortable, even when they don't understand, they can't really understand you. It's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person, all right? You're allowed to demand that you deserve to be treated better, regardless of if they can actually give you that better treatment or they can't. You're still in your right to own that that's how you deserve to be treated. And with the capacity that they have of meeting you there, then you get to decide what kind of relationship you want with them, what kind of closure, if you want any closure at all. But yeah, so because I chose to force myself to be okay with things that are actually not okay, because I wanted a connection, I of course organically would do that with guys that are not him. And that would lead me to very unfortunate situations and to very harmful situations that I didn't need to be in. That's when I was like, you know what? No. Like if I'm saying no to this, it's no to every fucking person in my life that can give me this behavior. It's not just gonna be from a romantic lens. And what this was doing on my subconscious mind, on a subconscious level, this was pretty much telling my subconscious mind that in order for me to have the quality of love and quality of connection that I want and I yearn for, I have to abandon myself, and I have to abandon my standards, and I have to abandon my needs and my truths and my well-being. And this is not okay, but it's also very not fucking true. I understand where this is coming from though. Like, this is exactly where the females in my family have been operating from for years. And I'm not trying to say this like pointing fingers or blaming anybody. It's more so like understanding, like, we're just repeating the patterns that we saw from our childhood because that's what we were told is normal. This is how we're supposed to find love. This is how we're supposed to receive love. And so I can so see how this has been a narrative for the females in my family for so long. Like, they're just so scared of being left or being abandoned or not being good enough for the male. They don't even question if the male is good enough for them. And that really fucking bothers me. And that's something that I have been very aware of for years. And that's something that I've been actively, consciously working on with myself, and I'm so happy to say that I'm not there at all anymore. Like, I really value my time, I really value my energy. Being with me is an actually fucking gift, and it's not for everybody. And my desires matter as much as the desire of the other person. My needs matter as much as the needs from the other person. And so if someone's gonna leave or they're gonna explode as soon as I share or I start prioritizing my own needs and my own priorities and my own boundaries, then that was not a connection that's even worth having in my life. And I think the sooner we start stopping the performance of repeating the same patterns that we've been seeing in our family for years and years and years, that's when we actually stop attracting toxic dynamics into our life. And toxic men for us. I'm not saying they're toxic. I'm just saying they're toxic for us. They're toxic for me. They're toxic for what I feel, for how I feel, for how I am, and for what I need. So yeah, I just wanted to record this separately because this feels very important and very relevant, and I forgot to mention it when I was recording with the camera. All right. Let's go back to the podcast video format. This was a very impromptu conversation, so I really hope that you enjoyed it anyways. And with this video, I just want to make it very clear, I'm not trying to encourage anyone to break a connection with their family members. I'm encouraging conversations. I'm encouraging curiosity. I'm encouraging change, because a lot of people don't feel connected to their family members unless they abandon themselves, and that is so painful, and you deserve better than that. And a lot of times we don't even know that we can actually have better because we don't even try. We're so stuck in our own mind. I mean, like, oh, he doesn't understand me, my mom doesn't understand me, my father doesn't even want to have a conversation with me. It's like, have you even tried? Have you even tried to have a conversation with them? But both parties need to be involved and need to want. At the end of the day, for me, boundaries and communication are a way of loving, definitely. If I want to have a conversation with you, or if I'm trying to set boundaries with you, it's because I care for the connection. It's because I want you to understand how I feel loved, and because I want to understand how you feel loved, because I value you and I actually want for us to have a connection that feels healthy for us both. If I didn't, trust me, I wouldn't have any sort of connection with you. Right, so that was everything for today's podcast episode. I truly hope that you liked it and that you got a little bit out of it. As I said in the beginning, this was very impromptu. I just decided to speak about it a little bit on my stories, and then I was like, this actually something I need to do on a podcast format. So I just decided to record. Make sure that you subscribe, you hit the like button, and you can also find this podcast episode as well as all the other ones on my Spotify. So if you want to download them while you're going on a walk and you're driving or whatever you're doing, you can always listen to them that way as well. These are my social media as well if you want to follow me, and I'll see you on the next one. Canta esa canción.